We are survivors of sexual harassment or assault and their allies. We write to ask you to end forced arbitration and the silence and abuse it enables. Some of our stories have been shared by others in the media, but our stories will never be heard in a courtroom. Case after case filed by survivors over the last 20 years prove that forced arbitration shields abusers, enablers, and the institutions that employ, promote, and often highly compensate them. With this letter, we urge Congress to put a stop to forced arbitration once and for all by passing the Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act of 2021, S. 2342, and H.R. 4445. Many of the signatories on this letter come from places of privilege and access. We are news anchors, journalists, attorneys, law students, and activists, and yet we have no power in the face of forced arbitration. With this letter, we hope to shine light on this issue and to remind policymakers that for every one of us, there are innumerable numbers of other survivors in the shadows whose voices have forever been silenced by forced arbitration. Unlike most Americans, we can use our platforms to advocate for the passage of this bipartisan, bicameral legislation, which would simply return to survivors the choice of how to pursue accountability against abusers. We believe that survivors deserve the right to tell their stories in their own words and in an open court of law if they so choose. Forced arbitration is a secret star chamber process by which defendants hand-select private companies to design a system that keeps survivors silenced and allows sexual misconduct to go unchecked. What most people don't know when they start a job is that buried in the small print of their employee handbook or in the reams of forms they are hurriedly asked to sign on their first day of work are clauses that will forever deprive them of the chance to seek justice if they are sexually harassed or assaulted. If a survivor wants to bring a case in a public courtroom, why should an arcane federal law passed in 1925 before anyone used the phrase sexual harassment and intended to apply to business-to-business transactions only preclude the survivor from bringing the case? The horror of forced arbitration is that when one survivor is silenced, countless others will unknowingly follow down the path of harassment and abuse by accepting employment with companies that protect and often promote sexual predators. To their credit, a few major U.S. corporations have voluntarily agreed to stop invoking forced arbitration causes in sexual assault and harassment cases, but those companies are few and far between. Please do not forego your responsibility as legislators and leave survivors at the mercy of corporations that refuse to remove forced arbitration clauses from their employment agreements. Simply put, the practice must stop for all survivors and for all future targets of predation. Please stand with survivors and pass the Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act. Respectfully, Courtney Kotzian.